we'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody once again to the Harriman City Council meeting on April 14th, 2015. We'll begin our meeting with a prayer by Councilman Wright, and we'll follow that by standing and pledging to the flag. Councilman Wright, will you oblige us, please?
Yeah, would you join me? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege to meet again and to represent our people in city government. May your spirit guide us and help us make sound and reasonable decisions. And Father, help us as we continue on in this town to continue to prosper in the future. For it's in Christ's name we ask. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris Taylor.
Here.
Wayne Best.
Here.
Buddy Holly.
Here.
Kenyon Me.
Here.
Ken Minor.
Here.
Lonnie Wright.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from April 7th?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Holly and a second by Councilman Best. Councilman Holly. Councilman Best. Floor is open for anyone that has any corrections or amendments or deletions. Minutes. Call the roll, please.
Chris Taylor.
Yes.
Wayne Best.
Yes.
Buddy Holly.
Yes.
Kenyon Me.
Yes.
Ken Minor.
Yes.
Lonnie Wright.
Yes.
Ask for a motion to approve the payment of the bills from the previous month.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Ayler. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Minor. Councilman Ayler.
No, sir.
Councilman Minor. No, sir. Call the roll, please.
Chris Taylor.
Yes.
Wayne Best.
Yes.
Buddy Holly.
Yes.
Kenyon Me.
Yes.
Ken Minor.
Yes.
Lonnie Wright.
Yes.
This time we have delegations in the audience. If anyone would like to address council, you may do so at this time. If you would state your name and try and limit your comments to 3 minutes to accommodate others that might like to speak.
J.D. Sampson. I'd like to ask, where are we on the annexation? If you know anything about it?
No, I'll yield the floor to the city manager. I know that the state legislature is, I think they said maybe, well, like there's a bunch of different bills I think that addressed annexation. I think something's going to move, but I don't know what. Do you know?
I don't know what will come out of the current session of the Assembly. As you say, there are a number of bills that they are considering. At the unless something changes at the present time, the May 15th moratorium date is still in effect for any annexations by ordinance. It would be anticipated that anything that comes out of the Assembly would be to address how things would occur after that date. But at present, it would be by request only, with the possible exception of adjoining parcels that share ownership with a parcel that's currently in the city. Those are some that we could look at doing before May 15th. Anything else would have to wait till after that date.
Before I left, I mentioned that last summer when we done the gazebo, that the dock down there was getting in bad shape. Now it's in bad shape. Can we use some of that TVA money to put it back?
We're going to entertain a resolution tonight from the county that's going to address that very thing.
It's something you might think about instead of building a wooden step, build a aluminum step and make it long enough where you don't have no legs on it. And that would be something. And
You mean support posts going in the ground?
don't put no post in the ground, let it sit on top of the hill on slab. Then let it go down and, being aluminum, you don't have to have something under it to hold it up. Then you wouldn't have that problem. Our school system is, we're going to ask for more money this year. And I know as much as anybody else that our taxes is pretty high. And we can't afford another tax raise. I'd like to see everybody here contact Yeager and Coffee and see if we can't get them to send more money down to the schools out of the lottery fund instead of putting so much of it in the college. If the kids losing education down here, you know, they ain't gonna pick up a whole lot when they get to college. They're gonna lose out. And I think the money should come from the state instead of from the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you. Still under delegations? Being none, go on to old business. Councilman Wright, we have any old business?
No, not this time.
Councilman Knight?
Did we, schedule anything on for the street department on as far as paving is concerned?
Yeah,
I think the city manager is gonna make some type of recommendation to us in the upcoming budget workshop.
I rode around with the directors of Public Works the other day, and we drove several of the streets in this particular area here, and it's amazing. There's not a block that doesn't have 8 to 12 cuts in it. So we need to do some serious consideration.
Yeah. If it weren't for, a lot of the streets, if it weren't for utility cuts, they would be in decent shape, but there's still, even if it weren't for that, there's still a lot I know that do, but yeah, I think that everybody kind of agrees that we need to do something this year. Anything else? No. Councilman Abel?
No, sir.
Councilman Best?
No, sir.
Councilman Meade?
Yeah, just to add on to what Ken said, we're gonna have to eventually, when we're talking streets, get with the housing authority and figure out what the deal is with that, because Rolling Acres and Piscotts are pretty bad. The other streets kind of get taken care of because they're in town where they operate, but that's another area that's, you talk about horrible, I mean, the bad. That's all.
I think the council would be interested in entering into some discussions with them and on leasing them those streets or deeding them over to them. That way they can qualify for federal funding. I know Wayne and I've talked about that. Maybe that if they own them, then they can get some federal grant money to pay for it. Our problem, right now our issue is they haven't paid us a little tax in quite some time. Yeah, 3 years, 4 years. So that makes it hard. But yeah, the ones in Piscotts, I don't think they've been paid since they were paid to begin with.
Doesn't look like it.
Right. Agreed. Anything else? Councilman Holly? Department reports, Dr. Curley? No. Kevin?
The various departments are beginning to kick off the budget process for this year. Just to let you know, we requested that they submit budgets by the end of this month, April 30th. I'll then be scheduling meetings with the department heads for myself and Dr. Curley to review and question them with regard to what their submissions are. Those meetings should take place during the first month of May, so that we can get some information from Dr. Curley and he can start putting that together in the budget format for the upcoming year. We've received some data that we requested from the city of Kingston with regard to the calls that they respond to in the fire department. That information came in earlier this week, and the committee that you appointed last month will be meeting next week to review that information and have a report back to you at the next meeting. And that's all I have.
Okay. Maria, do you have anything?
No.
Committee reports. Ain't nobody else had any department reports, I don't think. Committee reports, no committee reports. Move on to the agenda then. First item on the agenda, first of many items. Second reading of ordinance 011501, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Harriman, Tennessee by the change in the zoning for the Bonnie P. Ridge property at 105 Woody Avenue, Harriman, Tennessee from R1 to C2. This ordinance has been read in an open public meeting once, a couple of months ago, a month ago. The public hearing was held January 13th. Is there a motion to approve second reading? Motion by Councilman Minor, second. Second by Councilman Holly. Councilman Minor. Councilman Holly. Floor is open for questions.
Is this the one that involves the store?
Yeah, behind C&D Tire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still the same as last time, I guess. as far
So,
as-
further along, we
Further along.
we had it surveyed, and I provided that to Maria. I don't know if we have to have a full set of plans for the planning commission meeting, but right now we're forging ahead. We've gotten our phase 1 report and geotech. The soils are not great in this location. We didn't anticipate they would be because there've been some fill and remediation there, but we're forging ahead with civil and architectural drawings. So everything's on schedule as normal, and the right-of-way, which was the issue last time, the reason that we held off on rezoning, we did have it surveyed, and the dimensions of the property were different than what we had originally thought, but the right-of-way abuts to the actual property line, so the right-of-way does not impact the lease, so Family Dollar is agreeable, to moving forward.
What kind of time frame when you start building?
It's been delayed just because of, the issue with the right-of-way, but that took like 4 months because of the deeds, looking back to the 1800s. But typically, we've got a meeting on Thursday to discuss the soils and, to budget, what we think those costs are going to be. And then we just have to do civil and architectural drawings and appraisal. So once that's complete, I'd say that's another 60 to 70 days, and then we would, probably try to close on the transaction probably in the next 90 to 100 days.
Okay.
And construction would start, we want to be almost fully permitted to break ground, the day that we close, so.
Mayor, there was no objections at the public meeting, right?
Didn't have any. Councilman Mee had some concerns and questions, but I assume that.
Yeah, about just separating the residential from the commercial side, and then on, with some type of privacy fence and maybe some trees to help knock down the noise. Because right there between the stores gonna be there, and my back property line is where they're actually gonna be doing truck unloading and stuff, so.
Still open for questions. What do you anticipate the remediation being for the soil?
Well, there's suggestion about 5 feet of undercut, on the building pad and the parking lot area, which is a pretty big, significant undercut, for a site this size. But the remediation I was talking about, I think took place maybe in 2005, 2006, and the state TDAC, gave a no further action letter because I guess it was a garage or something at that point, for years, and so there was they tested the soils, everything was clean as far as the gas that was used on site. I think it was an above ground, storage tank. So there was just some in the soil. So everything has passed as far as the phase 1 environmental test, and then the geotech report is the only thing for budget, for our site costs. And we're actually going to hopefully work with Sam back here, who gave me his card, a couple months ago, and getting some preliminary numbers of what that's going to cost.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Chris Taylor?
Yes.
Wayne Best?
Yes.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Kenyon Me?
Yes.
Ken Minnet?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes. Pass second reading. Did you stay here last night, or are you staying here tonight, or you?
No, I'm driving back, so I'm probably going to leave to Nashville. I'm in Nashville, so I just come for every meeting and drive back. So
Okay.
just the one question, and maybe I can ask Maria, but address y'all. And what do I need for the approval, I guess the final commission approval? Does that require full civil and architectural drawings, or can that be done off the surveyed plan? We've already discussed it, and I think I brought it up last time with TDOT. They are gonna restrict us to a right in, right out, on the main road, and we're gonna have to do some work to the median, to further that down a little bit. But, so pretty much, the driveway, on the side street, I think is just approved by the city, so I don't know anything else that needs to be approved, conceptually or from the design standpoint.
I don't know, it sounds like that might be lengthy. Can you step out with him? He'd have to stay and go over that with him. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we can talk on it, doesn't matter. I don't, do you need full civil and architectural drawings?
Not architectural, but civil. We need the stormwater calculations for the detention pond and all just the site plan that meet the criteria and zoning.
Okay.
Did you say the state's gonna make you do the median work?
They are.
Extend it on down?
Mhm.
Is that normal?
It is.
Yes.
Is it really?
It's a gift. It's a gift.
There's something you don't even need, that is.
Okay, anybody else have anything? All right, thank you. We look
Okay, thank y'all very much.
We look forward to the completion.
Yeah, thanks.
Next item is discuss, possibly take action on fencing at the ball fields. I spoke with the city manager today, and they hope to have something for us by the end of the month. The TVA meeting is actually May 5th, so he hopes to have something prior to that, right? Yeah, right.
Yes, sir. Right now, we're scheduled to open bids on May the 4th, and you could award those bids on May the 5th at that meeting.
Okay. Next item, discuss and possibly take action on including retail strategies in the budget. Of course, this is a presentation that we have had from city manager, and really the action that we need to take is just to get a feel from everybody whether we do want to go forward with this in the upcoming budget or whether we don't, because the actual money will be allotted in the upcoming budget, which if we decided to go forward and if there were 3 players in the game, I think that we would spend, am I thinking right, 15,000 a year or 30,000 a year? 30,000. If there's 3 of us, I believe, right?
I was thinking it was more or less than that. Or 3, yes, at 3. I was, yeah.
Do you know if anybody else is telling you?
I do not. I know the Rhone Alliance is committed. If anyone else decides to move forward, as far as I know, they're the only ones at this point.
Does everybody want to, I mean, do you want Kevin to relay back to them that we are in favor of further discussion, or that we're just against it?
Me, I'd like to know the exact funds of what we're looking at. I mentioned to Kevin today, I come by and see him for just a minute. I didn't get to go to the meeting, we have been covered up with work, but my problem with it is I just look at some of our salaries with our employees here, and I was looking at raises this year, more so than spending $30,000 on this. And I kind of wanted to take care of our people before we started going out. But I don't know enough about it yet to know that the benefits to the city of Harriman.
Well, I was at that meeting, and the concept is a good concept. The problem is going to be in the details of the contract. It's going to be extremely difficult to get the other 2 cities to enter into this. They're going to complain. I think that one city's going to get an advantage over another, and they're going to want to dicker with the cost of it. So it's going to be a difficult process if we do it, but it is a good concept.
Mayor, I prefer that we not take that action.
I was at the meeting, and I suggested that it would be appropriate if the county did it for the whole county, including the cities. Primarily because the county gets, no matter where the development takes place, the county gets property tax from it. and they also get half the sales tax from any development anywhere in the county. If it falls within the county, then they would get a little more of the sales tax. So it seemed to me it would be appropriate if the county funded the entire study. I suggested that, but it wasn't received very well.
I suggested kind of the same thing you did. I suggested that the county absorb twice as much as everybody else because they stand to gain no matter what, if something goes in Kingston, then they get, like you said, their property tax plus half the sales tax, so.
And if you think about it, if I could interrupt you a second, anything that the county kicks in is partially paid for by the cities anyway through taxation. So therefore, if the county kicked in 50,000, we, the cities, are actually paying part of that. And so therefore, we'd be kicking in a larger amount, in fact, than the county government is home. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I still think the cities need to put some skin in the game.
Well, I think, as I said, it wasn't well received by online because they're representing the county, but it makes sense.
Is that repetitive?
It's 3 years.
Well, we could probably hire for $30,000. We could probably hire some help ourselves.
No,
No?
no, I don't think so. I think you'd be up around 50 with benefits and all. I've thought about that too.
I wasn't at the meeting either, but I'm definitely in support of it because I think we have an opportunity right now with the properties available at the Midtown exit. And that's why we invested in the Midtown exit from a utility perspective and the other additional costs that we incurred with the development of Pinnacle Point. So, I think we're just following up on the original vision behind the Midtown development and expansion. So I think to not support this would be kind of not really supporting what the original vision for that exit could be.
As far as when the county does it, since it is the county, they will be recruiting for everybody. And we're just looking to try to get the company working with us directly also, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we didn't do it, should we look at maybe sponsoring a little bit of it, maybe giving, say $10,000 toward to the county through the industrial board, however we need to do it for them to be able to do it, because we need to look at what we're standing to gain from it. Like Chris said, I mean, the only difference if we had our own, they wouldn't be able to tap the resources that a company who does that would.
Why not do it per capita basis?
I suggested that. That didn't go over too well either.
Well, I mean, even the schools now, if you look at those, we're paying a lot more per capita than.
Well, one of the suggestions that I had was that since no matter where a business locates, the county through the school system is going to get half the sales tax, was that the county fund half the study and then allow the remaining cities to jointly share the remaining 50%, which depending on how many goes in, determine what percentage of that you share. But I thought that was maybe a way to tie it to some figure that's out there without trying to get in too much detail, to try to be more fair to the entities based upon the potential revenue that they could receive.
The way I understood the program to operate is they will do studies, getting traffic counts and all of that together and present that to potential retailers. And the retailers are really the ones that are going to make the decision as to whether that meets their projected goals or whether they feel like that is a location that would benefit them. So it's really, what they're really doing is they're preparing a strategic plan for the whole county, and when it's laid out there, basically it's given to the retailer. The retailer makes the decision.
It would also include a property inventory for whatever jurisdictions decide to participate. That would include both raw land that can be developed commercially or existing buildings that could be redeveloped or repurposed.
Is that not kind of what the Rolling Lights does right now anyway? I mean, they have a counter of every piece of traffic, they have all the properties.
They don't have the connections though. I think that's the big thing. They don't have, let's say that we went with it and Harriman was a player and nobody else except for the county. They would take our numbers and our demographics and they would go, okay, this fits the criteria for these businesses. We've got points of contact with all these people. So they pick up the phone, they call and say, hey, I know you're looking to expand here. I've got a place, Harriman, and then the other places get left out. That's the only thing that I would hate for us to not be a player, and then you see 2 or 3 places pop up next door.
Well, if the Rolling Lights does it and we don't do it, they're not going to use any of Harriman stuff?
No, I think if all the cities got together and said nobody's in anything, I think that they would definitely push the rural county property first, but.
One thing we've done since we've been on council, before we started selling any of the buildings, before we even sold the armory, and we probably should have done that, is set aside money, because we've been wanting somebody for industrial and retail recruitment. We had been talking about it. I mean, it's not been as much talked about in the last year, because Midtown King seemed to find something, the owner finds somebody for him, but it's something we've been talking about doing since, like I said, back before the armory was sold.
Kevin, do you know what, if one establishment, if one establishment like Bojangles or somewhere like that located here, what we would stand to gain annually through sales tax and property tax on average?
I want to say a business like Bojangles would be 14,000. Does that sound about right?
Well, as you recall, we talked about second tier level retail that we're really most interested in, such as clothing stores or electronic stores, those kind of things. Primarily because whatever you might calculate for a business like Bojangles would probably not be realized, because we're cannibalizing those food service places now, and therefore we need to look at the higher tier to get there really to the next step.
For sales tax, but not for property tax?
For property tax, yeah, but on the other hand, the land you have here in Central Point area, or the potential land there for development, you're running the risk of investing in trying to bring development to a place that's going to develop anyway. And so that's a question you have to ask yourself. Do we want to pay for studying something that's going to happen anyway?
Then I come back with you, this would just be 1% of the whole total project cost. I mean, 1% a year for 3 years to help develop something.
Project cost is that?
$3 million.
Well,
You know, we put $3 million in it, 10 years later, it's not fully developed.
oh, it will.
Okay, I'm just saying 10 years later, it's not.
Look at what's happened each year. Yeah.
The old Kroger Shopping Center did.
It's, well, that's not going to perform there. I'm not arguing with you, I'm just saying, there's a likelihood that development will occur down there in any event because of the traffic and the location and the businesses that are there. As a focus, it would be good if we did a study like this, and I told the people there at the meeting that we really are looking for higher tier businesses that we could pull some of the trade back from Turkey Creek. So they understood that.
Whether this goes to the Rhone Alliance or whether we partner with other cities to do this or not, I will say this. If the goal is to find somebody to do retail recruitment for the city, I'm convinced that this is the company and this is the direction that we need to go. Now, That's a question of, do we feel like that's the right place to invest our resources? And it's a question of how you structure that investment if we go through the run of lines. But I do feel like that if you are going to invest those dollars, this is the way in which you'll maximize the return.
What are you asking us to do tonight?
Well, I was kind of trying to hope to get a feel from everybody, and it's not a unanimous thing, so that's what I wanted to know. So my answer to them is going to be, we need to get a little clearer on our portion. If we're asked to play, we want to know exactly what we're going to pay. That's what I was wanting to find out, and I did.
Continue to negotiate.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of open, we need to know, it needs to be a little clearer, need more clarification, I think is what I'm hearing.
It may be a good idea, as difficult as it may be logistically to coordinate, to get them to come present to each of the councils and meet with the actual representative of the firm we would be hiring, because I think they would be able to most directly answer any questions we might have.
You know, it would also be a great way to answer the question of why don't we have a roadhouse here, Texas Road? Why don't we have this? Why are y'all doing to get this? Why don't we have it? Because it's always our fault when something's not here that somebody wants. So, short of just passing a law requiring somebody to move their business here, I don't think we can do that. But this would be a proactive way to.
One thing to let everybody know though, it's not, if people out here know anybody, they're looking for, a lot of these companies are willing to come in and into that area, but they're looking for somebody to franchise with, meaning they're wanting somebody to come up with that initial $1 million or whatever it is, and they'll let you stamp their name all over it. So they've got those places, plenty of them lined up. We're almost in need of recruiting of local people or East Tennessee people that are wanting to put their money into it.
Take the risk. Anybody else have any other concerns or questions or comments? Because that's kind of what I wanted to learn. Next time, discuss and possibly take action on the online software. Kevin, you want to talk about that?
You've got a sample copy of the agreement in your packet. We do have a couple of small changes to that that we would recommend for this going forward. First of all, the proposals you have, it calls for 3 licenses for 3 users to use this software, which I'll explain here in a second. We would actually recommend that be reduced to 2 users, which would put the cost at about $1,100 per year. The agreement is written as a 3-year commitment, but because the city has never utilized this product before and has some uncertainty as to how beneficial it could be, we have negotiated a opt-out at the end of the first year. So the extent of what we would be committing to at this point in time would be 1 year's usage for $1,100, locking in or guaranteeing that price for years 2 and 3 if we decide it's beneficial and want to continue. Essentially, the program is called eCivis. It's a online software product that cities and states can utilize to research grant funding. They have a database of different entities that give funding, from governmental entities to nonprofit businesses and foundations, which it gives you all the information about the grant, the maximum you can apply for, what the match is, when the deadlines are, and even gives you samples of some of the grant applications that have been submitted in years past and been funded. So if you decide that you want to submit an application, you can sort of look at those that were successful and try to model your application after those going forward. We had a presentation to the leadership team about 2 weeks ago on this product, and I know the police department and fire department both expressed a great deal of interest in it. I think the third area that could benefit significantly from it would be parks and recreation as well. Realizing that it's in addition to the $1,100, it is a time investment. The product is only as good as the amount of time that the employees invest into using the product and finding the resources.
Kevin, there's no limitation on number of times you can use?
The only thing we're limited on, if we go with 2 users, is 2 users at one time being on the system. There are some, like if every user can set up their own list and save different things within it or manage different grants if they're awarded within it. But because those are tied to the users, if say police and fire shared one user's license and then parks and another department shared another, they would have to combine those functions together because they're sharing that user agreement.
So who would be logging into the system? Would it be the police chief, fire chief, and head of Parks and Rec, or how would that work?
I think those would certainly be logging in, but I could see it, going down the chain of command a little further, that your assistant department heads would also be able to do that. I mean, there's no reason not to open it up to as many people as possible. Fire department, if they're around the fire hall in the evening and want to jump on the computer and search for grants, I'm all for that. Because if it's, before the application goes in, it's going to have to come before this body to approve the application and the match. So I'm as far as many people using the product as we can.
Well, I'm just thinking, if it's the fire department and police department, sometimes they need special purchases and they come to us for those kinds of approvals, and if it wasn't budgeted for it, it'd be nice if we could refer them back to that software system at a cost of $100 a month, basically, less than $100 a month to the city. That could be quite valuable, even if they just found $1 grand a year for $2,000 or $3,000, it'd be worth it. So.
I do think if we enter into it, realistically, particularly when you're dealing with private foundations, they have more applications than they have funding available in most cases. And I've seen some in the past that they more or less tell you the first time you apply, you're probably going to get turned down, but that doesn't mean that your application is not doesn't meet their specifications. What they're saying is to reapply, and they go through those. A lot of the ones that I found the last time we used this, they actually take applications as many as 4 times per year, unlike a lot of the other grants that we deal with. It's once a year. So that can be beneficial, having the extra application periods throughout the year. A lot of the grants are smaller. A lot of times when we're dealing with governmental grants, we may be dealing with a grant of anywhere from $250,000, $500,000 maximums. A lot of these grants from the private foundations are going to be $10,000, $25,000 tops. But again, if we can just get one of those grants, we've paid for the service.
You know of other cities that use this, Kevin?
I know there are a number in Tennessee. Spring Hill uses it. I don't know if they still use it or not, but when I was in Fayetteville, we used the system at that point in time. That's been 8 years ago, I guess. The company was started, I think, in 2000, 2001, so they've been around about 15 years.
So you've personally been involved?
I have.
And I guess it worked out for you, at least could make your money back. It's not a lot of money per year.
Does this type of service increase competition for grants? Because I would imagine the more users you have logged in, the more people that are vying for those grants.
It probably does.
You recommend we do this?
I think it's a small investment. It's worth trying. If it doesn't work out, I don't think we've lost a lot.
We have to do it for 3 cycles, Kevin.
We've negotiated an opt-out at the end of year 1. We would go ahead and approve the agreement for 3 years because that locks in our price.
Right.
Even if they have a rate increase, we're guaranteed at the $1,100. But at the end of year 1, if we don't like the service, we can opt out.
Do you think that there'll be needs to have, other than one, are they gonna be on it that much that you couldn't look at in the morning and fire chief later the afternoon?
The first license is more expensive than the other. So you're only gonna save about $300 if you go to one license, so that's why I was recommending two. It also allows me, each user can be configured differently, so I can create one user for non-department heads that, to give out, they're restricted from actually making the application, and then another user for department heads and myself who could actually make the application, and that gives us a little more control just to make sure something doesn't get submitted without us seeing it.
After all this discussion, I'd like to actually make a motion that we accept it.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second? Motion by Councilman Ayler and a second by Councilman Minor. Councilman Ayler.
I think it's worth a try. I mean, $1,100 for something that could land us a $25,000 grant, it's worth a try. And if, like you said, you negotiate it down to the 1-year trial period, and that's a low commitment, I think, for something that could pay a big dividend. If it doesn't work out, then worst case scenario, we're out another $100.
Councilman Minor.
Anything that can help us hold the tax line, I'm for it, and I think this can do that.
Floor is open for question or discussion about this.
I guess this is for next budget year. Is that what we're putting it in for, to get on the budget, starting the
That's what I hope to do. I think as close as we are to the start of the budget year, they'll probably let us go ahead and start our training process for how to use the system for the people who are going to actually be using it, and get the invoice budgeted for in next year's budget for payment.
So should we just approve this program and wait till we get the contract with the right dates and the right price before we actually vote on the agreement?
Well, what would the actual effective dates be? From the time of payment, or I mean, when would access begin? If we voted yes tonight, when would access start? But we didn't pay them until July 1st.
I'm not sure, because I'm not sure how quickly we can schedule the training. And that would be the first thing, because I would want to create the training, schedule the training first so that we are able to fully maximize the 12 months before we actually start using the time that we have available. I think you could approve the agreement with the stipulation that it be structured for the upcoming fiscal year.
Dr. Curley had a comment.
Yes.
Oh, I was just curious, Kevin and I haven't had an opportunity to talk about it. I was curious whether or not they would have any flexibility on this paragraph 13.2, indemnification by you, someone that wanted to sue you for accessing some data that they didn't want to access, or reveal something about their organization. We would bear the entire cost. I don't know whether they have any flexibility on that paragraph or not. I'd be worth asking.
We're not used to having an attorney here. We generally, it would be approved based on, or with the approval of the city attorney, I guess is what you're saying. We're still under discussion.
On the budget process, it's been $1,100. Do we not have any money in the budget for office, computer stuff or anything that this could be covered under, to go ahead and still worried about $1,100 being added on the budget in July?
Software
If it was
upgrade.
needed.
Dr. Curley, are you aware of a line item that might have some funding available in this?
We're looking at how much there,
1,100.
1650.
I thought it was 1,100.
It's 1,100.
100.
Mine says 1650.
That's for 3 users, and we're only gonna need 2. And it's $550 for users above.
How much, 550?
$550 for each user above 1, so it's total $1,100 for 2 users.
That's something they can look at and bring back.
We do have a little money left in Sunday. About $595
For the whole,
Sunday.
I think, that $595 may be absorbed somewhere else in just a minute.
Oh, well, okay.
Or a request for it, I'm sorry.
Normally in the office budget, we're very tight every year. Let me look here for a second and see.
I'm just saying, something y'all could look at, you could look at each department and take $250 out of each department's line item for that area, since everybody's gonna use it, and we move on at $1,100.
$947, line item 947, office machinery and equipment, looks like, we're only.
Yeah, it looks like we have plenty of funds available there.
For that.
We don't anticipate adding anything this year. If you want to take it out of office machinery and equipment, there is another line item for, well, contractual services. I think we'll use them on that. It's pretty well spent.
We can do that at 947, then that's what it's there.
That's all in there.
Motion is to go ahead and move forward with this for a 1-year commitment with the approval of, well, I'm sorry, do you want to amend your motion to have the approval of Allison to review the contract?
Upon review of that specific item in question, 13.2.
Whole
Or the whole
contract.
contract.
She probably needs to redo the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
With her approval. Is that okay with you, Ken?
Yeah.
That is the motion for a 1-year obligation at $1,100. We're still under discussion on the question. Being none, call the roll, please.
Chris Taylor?
Yes.
Wayne Best?
Yes.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Kenyon Me?
Yes.
Ken Minnet?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
Next item is discuss and possibly take action on enlarging litigation funding. I'll once again turn it over to Kevin.
As you'll recall, when we first approved the attorney to begin work on this, there was a cap put on the amount of funding that was available for that defense. We have, at this point, reached that cap, so we're requesting an additional $4,000 to be budgeted. Due to the fact that we defended a motion that we did not anticipate as to whether or not Michael Kelly was our duly appointed legal consultant for this case, as well as some vagueness in the filings that the judge has allowed to stand, and created a number of motions and counter filings. We've reached that limit a little quicker than we had anticipated. However, the judge has heard our request for motion to dismiss, and we anticipate $4,000 would carry us through the end of the judge's decision on the motion to dismiss. If he were to dismiss it, then unless the case is appealed, we would be done at that point. If he doesn't dismiss it, then there would be additional funding needed at that point. Angie, do you recall how much we initially budgeted for this case?
Need approval to move forward with this, or for the additional funding at $4,000. I believe we initially passed this with just this caveat that he comes back every time he needs money. So I don't think that the $2,000 was an absolute thing. but we do need permission to move forward.
Make a motion to
Second.
extend $4,000.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Best to extend the $4,000 more dollars, and second by Councilman Ayler. Councilman Best.
No, sir.
Councilman Ayler.
No, sir.
Last choice. Any other discussion?
Yeah, are we getting Allison involved in this? So do we need to get her up to speed?
At this point, I've been copying her on some of the correspondence, but I haven't actually gotten her involved just simply because I didn't want to create a double billing situation.
No, that's fine. I just want to know as long as she's receiving stuff, she'll be aware of it. Because she'll be the one talking to us at the meetings and stuff too.
And we can schedule for Mr. Kelly to come in and give you a briefing at any point in time that you would like. If the judge approves our motion to dismiss, then we can probably do a wrap-up. If he doesn't, I think that would be an appropriate time for him to come in and give you that briefing.
You will pay for it though. I mean, he's on the clock. He did do an excellent job at the hearing that I was at. He's pretty impressive. Still under discussion for $4,000. There being none, we'll call the roll, please.
Chris Taylor?
Yes.
Wayne Best?
Yes.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Kenyon Me?
Yes.
Ken Minnet?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
Next item, discuss and possibly take action on the county resolution project. This resolution is included in your packet. This resolution is requesting that we approve it. The county is requesting on our behalf, this is a list of projects, let me start over, a list of projects that was included in your packet that total upwards of $1 million. The county is asking for this money to come from the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation and also the National Resource Trustee Program. This has something to do with some contaminants that have happened in, I think, the Clinch and the Emory and the Tennessee. When this happens, money comes down. The county is actually trying to capture some of this money this time instead of letting it go by. Apparently, this has been available before and nobody has known about it. So somehow the county was made aware that they can apply for some projects on behalf of not only themselves but also the cities that lie within the county. They have never awarded any of this money before to a municipality, period. So this would be a first for this type of money. What concerns us is the shoreline at Riverfront Park. I know we had discussed before putting rock on the bank, riprap on the bank. It's going to be upwards of $80,000 or $100,000 for us to do that and to stop the vegetation from blocking the view and also from the erosion that JD was talking about. This would stop all that around the dock. But they are asking that we approve their request for $80,000 for that shoreline to be riprapped. I think it's actually kind of a long shot, but they're wanting to go ahead and put all these projects forward and see if they get approved. There's no guarantee that any of them will be approved. There's no guarantee that half of them, half may be approved, half may not. I think probably the first $750,000 that you see listed probably will, and items C, 1 through 4, will probably not because it exceeds the budget.
But you feel like Riverfront improvement been made?
I do, because it's dealing with erosion control on the waterway. I think it has a great shot at it.
I think too, because it's the only think it's the only project, I know it's the only one we submitted to them, within Harriman city limits, that if they were to get funded, particularly at the maximum, I think they would be compelled to do that project, because I think the way that they would try and prioritize these is to spread the money throughout the various cities in the county. So we've sort of, where a lot of these have various priorities, and there's a lot of them are smaller dollar figures, but we've tried to put all of ours into one project to try and get it funded rather than having competition.
Make a motion to accept the county resolution for.
The motion by Councilman Best, second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Minor. Councilman Best.
No, sir.
Councilman Minor.
No, sir.
Floor is open for questions or discussion.
One question. If we approve this, we're not putting any funds into it.
Correct.
Essentially, what we're doing is supporting the county's joint resolution to apply on behalf of Olive Branch County.
Correct. Still open for discussion. Call the roll, please.
Chris Taylor?
Yes.
Wayne Best?
Yes.
Buddy Holly?
Yeah.
Kenyon Me?
Yes.
Ken Minnet?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is discuss and possibly take action on the strategic planning session report, which has also been given to us by MTAS. They have prepared this handout, and it's been included in your packet. I'm sure you've had a chance to review it. It's just a formal way to approve this, and that way future councils will have a guideline, as will we, to move forward.
There's a few things I think we need to take out of it first, like saying we've already purchased the tub grinder and stuff like that.
Mayor, could we make this our workshop item for the 21st,
Sure.
along with meat property? We're going to discuss that, it won't take long, but that way anybody's got any questions about this can kind of get them down for you.
For discussion purposes, you mean do it then? I don't have a problem with that, nobody else does. Anybody else, is everybody all right with that? I don't know. Okay. Last item on the agenda is the planning commission appointment. We have a vacancy on the planning commission. I'm asking that the council approve the appointment for Joe Jones for that appointment, a 4-year term. Joe is a local businessman from Sears. Of course, has a family in the school system and has always been active in the community. As a matter of fact, he was just here last week with the Boy Scout troop, I think 103. So he's active in the community and obviously well respected, and I think would be a good fit for the planning commission.
Motion to accept.
Motion by Councilman Ayler, second by Councilman Wright. Is there any discussion, Councilman Ayler?
Just thankful he's willing to serve on that board.
Councilman Wright.
Yeah, I echo what Councilman Davis said.
Floor is open for question, or anybody has any discussions about Joe? Call the roll, please, on the appointment.
Chris Taylor?
Yes.
Wayne Best?
Yes.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Kenyon Me?
Yes.
Ken Minnet?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
May I have a motion to waive the agenda rule, please? Motion by Councilman Ayler and a second by Councilman Minor. All in favor of waiving the agenda rule, please vote with aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Councilman Ayler had asked for something that would go under old business. I didn't think it'd go under old business, so I think this would be the proper way to handle it. Councilman Ayler, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. After our lengthy discussion over the $1,100 expenditure, I'm rather nervous about this request. Last year, of course, Roane County hosted a bike race that was sponsored and put on by a cycling team and club out of Knoxville. who devotes a tremendous amount of volunteer hours to our community. They round up sponsorship. Most of the sponsorship, of course, comes from the community, local businesses, municipalities. Kingston and Rockwood, I believe, have already voted to approve the expenditure. What I'm asking for, what they're asking for, is a $500 commitment from the city. What happens on the day of the race and that weekend is something that we like to have happen. We have about 200 to 250 people from outside the area come in, stay in the hotels, eat at our restaurants, and visit our gas stations. Not to mention the fact that they're getting to visit our community. So what I'm asking is that the city would approve a $500 expenditure to help support the race. The bike club that's putting it on does not make any money off of this. They actually lose money. They're required to put on a bike race to maintain their status with the USA Cycling Commission. And I just wanted to, on their behalf, request the donation.
Make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Best to take $500 out of the sundry line item for the bike race. Second? Second by Councilman Minor. Councilman Best.
Well, I think it's good. I think it's good. It's coming through Harriman. And I think we'll get our money back when we're staying at the hotels and eating here.
Councilman Minor.
Yes.
When is it again, Kurt?
It's this Saturday. This Saturday and Sunday. The morning race is in Harriman, starts out at the TCAT Center, which, by the way, I want to thank the folks out there. They open the doors for the racers early in the morning and let them use their facilities. And that's kind of the staging area, so it's a great way to start off the event for that.
Still open for discussion.
Rain or shine, yes, yes.
Kevin and I talked a little about this today, potential that it might be a thing that if we worked it, it was his idea. If we worked it so that they gave us some information about whether they stay here in a motel or not, we might have some actual data tracking how much it brings to the city.
Yeah, I was curious, it might be too late for this year, but I'm assuming it's gonna happen again next year, if on the registration forms, if we can just ask voluntary information on whether you plan on staying overnight, and maybe how many people are coming and how many meals you may plan on eating while you're here for the event.
Sure. I believe in the past, last year, I'm not sure about this year, that the Harriman hotels, I think one in particular, the Holiday Inn Express, was the race hotel. So it's promoted, they get a discount, it's promoted on the flyer that's sent out and on the website that the racers use to register with and refer to the specifics of the race. So that should be a request that should be able to be fulfilled, if not this year, certainly next.
Still under discussion. I assume you still need volunteers too?
Yes, if anyone's willing to volunteer and wake up not too terribly early on Saturday morning and meet out at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology around 8:30 or so. Should go from about 9 until around 11, so relatively short day. I think I have enough volunteers, but it doesn't hurt to have a couple extra.
I'll make a motion to mayor and all the council go out there except for me.
I don't think you're going to hear a second on that.
Still under discussion? Okay, call the roll please on the $500 from sundry line items to be given to the bike race. I also made Councilman Nader aware, I don't know if this falls under the restrictions or guidelines that he had, that they have to provide a financial report. If so, he said they will from last year's race.
If they have one, it'd be good to have it.
Sure. Call the roll please.
Chris Taylor?
Yes.
Wayne Best?
Yes.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Kenyon Me?
Yes.
Ken Minor?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
Not to compete with the bike race, but this Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning is the opening day of Little League Baseball, and of course, council is invited to come out for the opening ceremony and for the opening pitch. So please try to be there. If you can be there about 8:45 at the ball field in South Harriman at 9, or for the 9 o'clock ceremony. Could get rained out. If it does, we'll let everybody know. Also, want to remind you all to shop Harriman and shop Roane County, and also ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.